Okay, before I finish this, listen. Quit dicking around with Ukraine and give them what they need. Um, I understand that the technicalities that are involved with weapon systems and making sure that you can input the right data. The technicalities of having an armament loaded, targeting the armament, dropping the armament, and getting home safely. Okay? And the type of gliding weapons that we have now, pilots aren't exposed as much. I can tell you right now that Ukraine has plenty of pilots that could fly F-16s. They could get in them right now, fire it up, and go and do any kind of maneuver in the airplane that they wanted to do. Because the airplane is an excellent flying airplane. It takes no special skill. Okay, we had a light aircraft when I was young that killed a lot of people. It was called the American Yankee, and this thing had tiny little fucking wings. Okay, and too many people slid those in like this into the ground, especially flying low. A pilot who can fly, who understands what ailerons or elevons, there are a lot of different names for the control surfaces now, but if you know the procedures for starting that aircraft and the operational procedures that are going to be in your standard manual for the aircraft, this is how you get your gear up, this is how you set your radios this way, they'll all be familiar with those concepts. They're going to be familiar with, why am I doing this? It's not going to be any mysteries. And then give them ATACMS. The Russians are using phosphorus. They're using multiple, containered weapons, which are supposed to be, they're saying that cluster bombs are illegal. But you have the Russians using them constantly. Listen, I don't believe the Kremlin's bullshit that wasn't white phosphorus that I saw. It was white phosphorus that I saw. Those were cluster bombs that I saw. See? I mean, no mystery here. Let's give them what they need. Because, I can tell you that even just a few F-16s could make a big difference right now. Okay? Give them some A-10s. I'll guarantee you they have pilots that could get in that A-10 and in just a couple of months at the most be very proficient in the airplane. These guys are motivated. Okay? These guys are motivated to learn. I think people, again, this whole culture thing, this inbuilt otherism that seems to be in human beings, that because they're Ukrainian, they're not as smart as American pilots. They're Ukrainian, they're not as smart as America. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. It's just a different culture. Okay? They're not a different fucking species. These guys are capable, and they would be capable soon. I hope that they have 30 or 40 of these guys in training right now. Because if we gave them 30 or 40 F-16s, the war would change immediately. You could hammer these frontline positions like they've never been hit before. Just a few F-16s, some glide bombs, cluster bombs, as far as I'm concerned, listen, if Ukraine and Russia are going to drop butterfly mines, then quit fucking worrying about trying to fight some kind of a clean war, okay? The Russians fight dirty, and then they want to propagandize that their hospital was hit by the terrorist Nazis. And for me, it's kind of sickening feeling that there are really Russians that believe that shit, okay? That they haven't seen flattened cities. They haven't seen a city just completely fucking flattened by thermobaric bombs, which are supposed to be illegal. Again, the Russians use them. Let's fucking arm Ukraine with what they need to go and kick the Russians' ass. It's the best investment this generation could make right now for our future, okay, when it comes to Russia and China. Because, you see, China's looking and learning right now going, so that's what a determined enemy does. And then you look at Vietnam and the United States and you're like, so that's what a determined enemy does. And then you read Sun Tzu, who talks about the moral law, that without the moral law, okay, you cannot win the war. It may go on for 100 years, but eventually you will lose because it costs 1,000 ounces of silver a day. War is not free. The United States has given tremendous help to the Ukrainians in a lot of really important areas, okay? I understand not sending Abrams right away, and I mean that for me that's more complicated than having an F-16 taken over to a trained pilot who's been flying a Su-29. You know what I mean? He's been flying fighter aircraft already. It's a little different to take somebody that's been driving around in a T-80 and put him in an Abrams, or the people that have to do the maintenance on the engine. Okay, I can see that. But, an Abrams would be dropping these other tanks before they even knew the Abrams was around, or before it was even in range. They'd just be leveling these guys, okay? That's what they need. But they need air cover. They need if not air dominance, they need air cover, and they need immediately response type missions that can put heavy firepower accurately on target. Okay? When you start talking about Ukraine dropping 2,000-pound JDAMS on Russian positions, I think you're going to see a lot more Russian positions leaving their area. I think you're going to see a lot more crapping on the morale of the Russian army when you see 6 JDAMs go off and each one of them lands right on a piece of artillery. Yeah, that's going to change some attitudes. That's one F-16. Give them Mavericks and A-10s. It was meant to fight over in Europe shooting tanks, okay? Yep, air defense, it has gotten better, right? But in the proper use, in the proper way, the A-10 is still a viable platform, especially now that it's like turned into this bomb truck, gun-carrying beast that can drop, 24 glide bombs? Just give that to them. Give it to them now. I'm all for sending American pilots that have been in the United States Air Force, know the aircraft, they are retired. I'm all for them going and flying for Ukraine. I got no problem with that. None. Give them what they need. The Russians right now are crumbling. Their economy's falling apart. Their society's falling apart. Their military's falling apart. The only thing we haven't seen is mass demonstrations because of just like this giant smothering blob of snot that's covering Russia with this propaganda where you can't even breathe. It's just this overwhelming, huge pile of shit, constant. And see, when you own and regulate all of the media, and that's the only place people get their media, well, there you go. All the brain drain that happened, all of the smartest left, all of the people of military age left. Those smart people, they're not coming back. I hope if the general Russian population understood that 100,000 of their most brilliant people just left the fucking country and aren't coming back, they're not coming back. They know what Russia's going to be over the next 30 years, 40 years, if it even survives as Russia. They know. They're planning on staying wherever they're at. So we need to let's just get this war over with and give the Ukrainians the air power that they need. That is what they're lacking right now. You can't say that that's heart, or that they're not determined, or that their warriors aren't brave. I mean, those guys are tigers. So give them what they need. Give them JDAMS of every size, okay, and then let American pilots fly over there, because I have no doubt that there's been a lot of United States ex-fighter pilots that want to go fly there, and they've been told not to. Because you see how many American military are over there fighting, right? You see, they're fighting in Ukraine for the same reason they fought in Iraq. It was to free people from a tyrant. And that's that's the Americans that I see fighting in Ukraine. I can tell why they're there in short order. And they're brave as fuck. I mean, they're restricted right now. And it's because they don't have that ability to come on from high. And we have to give that to them. We have to give it to them now. Let American pilots, get in these F-16s and go drop some JDAMs. And I mean, right now, after, the Wagners seem to me to be crazier and, willing to charge into the line of fire way faster than these Russians. I tend to think that maybe the Wagnerites got paid. The Russian army's not getting paid. We have every reason to do this. Okay? It's the best investment that this generation can make. Look what they're threatening to do with Zaporizhia. You see, the entire world knows it's not the Ukrainians that are going to blow up that nuclear power plant. The entire world knows that the Ukrainians are not going to blow up the Zaporizhia nuclear power plants. The whole world knows that. But all you hear from the Russian side is that the Ukrainians are planning a terrorist attack. A terrorist attack. Wait a minute. You go to their fucking country and invade them, and then you go to a nuclear power plant that's there and say that they're going to do a terrorist attack against that nuclear power plant. That sounds so insanely absurd, doesn't it? But it's terribly frightening to know that, tens of millions of Russians believe that shit. 100%. They have no doubt that Vladimir Putin is telling them the truth. Whew. Man, see? So let's not think about Putin and the politics, because that's what fucked us in Vietnam. That's what fucked Russia in Afghanistan, is you can't have a limited war. There's no such thing as limited war. It's only limited conflict, and that can go on forever. Okay, one side has to succumb and go to the table and say, okay, I've had enough. But Putin's never going to go, I shouldn't have done that. You're right. You guys aren't Nazis. We were the fucking Nazis. See, he's never going to say that. So that's up to the Russians to solve and to figure out, because as far as I'm concerned, Russia cannot move forward with Vladimir Putin in charge. The fiasco with Prigozhin and, the whole military operation, and now you're going to, you're having rapists and murderers in your military because all of your smart people left your country. What kind of fucking leadership is that? See, it's the control of the media. That's why it's so important for even people like me to be able to come here and say, I don't have to watch the news to understand what's going on. I can get audio, video pictures from the front lines from either side anytime I want. I can see with my own eyes what's going on. I don't see Ukrainians flatten Russian cities, bombing pizza parlors. Who's the terrorist? See? Let's give them the air power they deserve. Give it to them as soon as possible. More than as soon as possible, okay? There are pilots right now that are capable of going up, dropping a fucking bomb, and flying the airplane back home. No, they may not be the world's best F-16 pilot, okay? But they've been flying Russian attack jets for many years, and they can go up and drop some JDAMs and get the aircraft back on the ground. They don't have to be the world's best pilots.